So I just sum it up. I think we're talking about ego power, right, versus this spiritual power, and we have both of it, and the whole journey. That's why we're here. That's why every moment of our life, is part of this journey that we are on, and it's to rely on our spiritual power. It's to recognize the difference, know the difference between our ego power and our spiritual power. Because if we even had an ounce of knowledge or wisdom of our spiritual power, there isn't anything that we can do. We have so much power within us. So I got to thinking, if I had one message, only one message to give, and never could give any other message again, it would be in Marianne Williamson's quote that she said, that has been sometimes attributed to Gandhi, I think. And I'm going to read it, and I want to talk about this a little bit because it's about power and it's about powerlessness. And she says that our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us the most. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and famous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that people around you don't feel insecure. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, but it's in every single one of us. And when we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. To me, that is so powerful. It's huge. What it says is that we have so much power inside of us, and if we even know it, if we know how much power and we know how to direct it, that we can change our life and change the world. And that's the hugest message that we could ever feel within and take out. It's the one message that if you leave here and never come back, that if you get this, that your life will change and never be the same again. I once read that we were made, I read a lot of science stuff, and we were made of trillions and trillions and trillions of atoms, and it only takes one atom to light the world on fire. That's how powerful that we are. And we just don't recognize or know our power. We are powerhouses of energy, and we're not talking ego energy. We have that in us. I'm talking about the powerhouse of spiritual energy that you are to touch your life, to touch other people's lives. So this whole month, we're talking about surrender. And we're talking about surrendering to this power. When we don't surrender, it's our ego power that takes over. But when we are surrendered, when we accept life on life's terms and are surrendered, wow, does our life change. We surrender to that power, to God power. We live with the power of God in us. And it's so much different. You feel different. You act different. Everything is different when you are living from that power. So I love that when we're babies, I love seeing your little guy there. Oh, he's so cute, and it's just, they're born, we're all born that way, right? We're all born soft and pliable. There's no ego, there's no boundary, we're so beautiful. And then we learned to be hard, right? We learned to be hard and have this ego around us. We became small. We grew up, but we became small. Just like Marianne Williamson says, small, our smallness. It's in giving over to our smallness that opens the door to misery. And I want to talk about that for a minute, We start out with these great intentions every day. Probably this morning we started out with a great intention to be kind and wonderful, to be big, and then we were small. Someone cuts us off in the freeway, or our plates are cold, or our food's cold. There's something that goes on in your, life that makes you small, that you don't come from your bigness, and then our smallness, gives way to pain. And we live that way, when we play small, when we really play small in life, we don't honor, that's what it means, not to honor the spirit in each other, not to be kind and compassionate and loving to each other. That's playing small. So ask yourself, do you play small sometimes? And the answer is yeah, we all do. We all do that. When we play small, we're not compassionate. We're not loving. We're not as kind. When we play small, we're not as understanding and authentic as we would be when we play small. When we play small, Judy talked about it, we control. We take our ego and we try to control everything in our life. We want it to be our way or the highway. And it's funny, I went outside yesterday. Actually, I heard Eden outside, my 9-year-old grandson, and he's outside going, and he's got this little bee that's dying, and it's got like a leg that's moving, and he's over it going, believe, 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 And I go out and I go, what are you doing? And I couldn't see the bee, and he goes, look, he's got a leg moving, he could still live. He can still live. And I go, so, what's the believe for? And he goes, I believe it could live. I believe it could live. And I'm thinking about, I think we kind of talked about it. And I said, well, maybe the bigger soul is ready to move on, because I knew that guy was a goner. and I didn't, I said, maybe, you can believe that his soul is going someplace else, And I got to thinking that's what we do, is that we control, we believe, and our little ego gets in there. And that's playing small too. Playing small when we try to control even for good things, right? When we can open up and say, you know what, there's a different plan. There's a divine plan that runs through us. When we can step and get out of the way and let God. Like, I love what you said. It's the whole basis of the 12-step program. When we can let go and let God move through us. And whatever happens, that little bee, and he was gone real quick, And Eden was fine with it. He found a little leaf, and he put him on, and he said, he says, I'm going to bless him. He goes, you want to bless him with me? So we closed our eyes and blessed it. And I thought, that's so cute, I taught him well. Okay? But the truth is that when we play small, there's a saying that says, if we make our bed in hell, then behold, there we are. Have you heard that? Okay, that's what playing small's about. We make our bed in hell, and there we are. So how many hells have you been through in a day? Where have you been making your bed? You know by the feeling that you have, if you're, in alignment with spirit, or if you have made your bed in hell. We all know by how we feel every day. And a lot of us get up in the morning, and it's like, had a rough night, and it's because, we have made the bed in hell, and it's time to get up and to focus and to let the energy of God move through us so that we can walk in line with spirit, And then I read something that the goal of spiritual practice is to keep our hearts open in hell. Because, like Judy said, we're all going to be in hell sometimes. I don't know if you said that, but you said something like that. We're all there, right? Sometimes we all are there. But we got to learn how to keep the hearts open. We got to learn how to bring God there too, right? God's there, right? It's all in how you see it. Does that make sense? I hope so. So how do we do this? How do we do it? And it's what we're talking about all month. We're talking about surrender. I love it, because surrender is kind of a tough term for some people, because it sounds like, we're letting things happen to us, that we're victims. And that's not what surrender is about. Surrender is I love this, when soul yields to soul. S-O-L-E, the single, soul, yields to S-O-U-L, right? You get it? Do I have to explain this, or are we getting it? So our soul, our single, yields to God. Soul yields to soul, And that seems like it would be a lack of power, but it isn't. It's an expression of freedom. It's how we walk in the world, how we are in the world. It's a sense of freedom that we have when we let soul take over. It's gaining this tremendous freedom and using it then effectively in the world. And what happens when you do that? In my life, I'll tell you, I'm a controller sometimes, and boy, when I let go, it's like I can talk better, when I'm in control, because I can't talk very well, and when I'm not, it's like it flows out, When I let God come up here, sometimes it just flows out, and I'm loving it. And there's other times that my little ego gets in, and I'm going, do I sound really stupid? And I'm doing all this stuff, But when I let it go, see, you talk better. It's like everything that you do is easier. Things come to you easier. You don't have to work so hard to do. It just glides. You're lifted. It's like you raise your sails and you're glided. No, you're guided. You're guided and glided. Okay? That's what surrender is. It's this spontaneous spirit that moves through you, moves through all of us. And it happens when we just say yes to life. When we say yes to the present moment, when we are in that present moment, when we're in the now, that's what it is. It's saying yes to anything, because anything other than that, this inner resistance, Eckhart Tolle says, is just insanity. When we resist what is. When we resist what is already happening in life, and boy, do we do that. We resist something that's already happened, and we battle with ourselves. And he's saying, just open up your heart, say yes, and let it move through you. Sometimes it's painful. But life is sometimes painful. But when you open and let God, you can handle it. You can handle anything in life. I promise you that. You know, something amazing happens when we surrender. Something amazing. And it's a melting. And I have felt it before, and I know that you have too, but it's a melting of a hard shell around you. And you melt into this softness that you are. That's what Judith Orloff talks about, this hard power and this soft power. You melt into the soft power that you are when you breathe in to who you really are. And when we do that, you know, the world changes when we start to change. The world changes. And the world softens. It softens when we start to soften. And the world loves. It loves us when we choose to love the world. That's what surrender is all about. And that's my prayer for each and every one of us, is that we surrender to this power that we have within each and every one of us. Thank you.